Hey, this is Russell Moore, and this is One Thing You Missed. One of the things you might have missed over the past week or so is some of the conversation around the launch of Stranger Things Season 3 with Netflix. Now, you may be somebody who has absolutely no interest in Stranger Things, but that doesn't mean that this cultural phenomenon doesn't relate to you. There's a really interesting article in The Atlantic this past week by Sophie Gilbert about why Stranger Things resonates with an American audience. And her argument is that it has to do with equal parts nostalgia and paranoia. So if you think about what this program is about, it's set in the 1980s. And part of the mystique of watching Stranger Things is for people to see items from the 80s that they haven't seen in a long time. Phones on the wall from the 1980s, Cocoa Puffs boxes that are designed to look like the 1980s, and of course, the whole conversation this year around Coke. So this season of Stranger Things has a commercial tie-in with Coca-Cola because it's set in the time period, 1985, I believe, when New Coke was released. So you have the nostalgia for that time period from people who grew up in it or people who maybe didn't grow up in it, but they sort of idealize it. And then paranoia. So if you think of what's happening in Stranger Things is you have this alternative reality that's a really dark reality of the upside down dimension that's breaking into our own in some horrifying ways. But you also have this secret conspiracy of the Soviets. So it's harkening back to the sort of Cold War type of mentality that took place in the 1980s. And so her argument is that this nostalgia and this paranoia, both of those things are quintessentially American. I think there is some degree to which she is right. There's something about nostalgia, there's something about conspiracy theorizing that what I would argue, the reason these resonate with us is because they're rooted in something deeper. So if you think about the Coke issue, for instance, New Coke, there's another article in the leftist magazine Mother Jones over this past week that says that New Coke didn't die, it was murdered. And the argument is that New Coke actually was a good product, that it was better than Coca-Cola Classic, and that the reason that it died was because of a Southern rebellion, that you had Southerners who don't like change, and they didn't like Coke tasting more like Pepsi, which they thought was a Yankee product. I was there in 1985. New Coke was not good. And I think there was a sense of nostalgia there, where people are saying this is a product that we've loved and we don't want to give up. We don't want to be without it. So here's why I think all of that really matters. Nostalgia can be bad. Nostalgia can lead a person, a family, a church to think back to some previous time as though that was a time without the fall. As one sociologist puts it, nostalgia is history without guilt. And that's the reason why you can have people who can hearken back to this golden age that never really existed. Nostalgia can be really bad. Conspiracy theories can be really bad. We've seen that with Pizzagate, with the Seth Rich stuff, with ways that these conspiracy theories can actually lead people to act in crazy ways, sometimes even in violent ways. But nostalgia and that sense of paranoia, for lack of a better word, are rooted in something that's really true. So if you think about nostalgia, C.S. Lewis talked about joy, talked about this sense of longing, this sense of almost pain that can come with thinking back to a time in one's past, because it's rooted in looking forward to something that God has created us to see shadows in the things that we experience as blessing. And a sense of conspiracy, I think, is rooted fundamentally in the fact that there is a conspiracy. We're living in enemy-occupied territory where things are going on around us that are not the way that they are supposed to be. So there's a reason, I think, why people enjoy nostalgia, a reason why people are drawn toward some forms of paranoia. And that shows up in Stranger Things, it shows up in the Cola Wars, it shows up in all kinds of ways. So maybe with the release of Stranger Things Season 3, we'll have just another pop culture nostalgia fest. Maybe it's an indication that people are really searching for signposts for something deeper, something better. Stranger things have happened. That's one thing you missed. This is Russell Moore.